Well, here's the question. Here's the question. Is romantic love the only thing that makes sex between a husband and wife pure and lovely in the sight of God? Or put a different way, is sex without romantic passion a sin in the sight of God? Pastor Dalrock wrote another article on this, talking about a Pastor Tim Bailey. Now, I'm not sure who Pastor Tim Bailey is exactly, but it must be a fairly popular pastor. He wrote a post entitled Authority and Submission, Muscles Needing Exercise. So Tim Bailey writes on this post, what do you suggest when a husband exercises his authority muscles and commands his wife to do X, such as put the kids to bed on time or get ready to have sex, and she disobeys him? How does a Christian husband proceed with that? Now, here's where Pastor Tim has been blinded by chivalry. He writes, sex is a matter of love, not a command. If your wife doesn't want to love you, that's a fundamental problem, and she is unlikely to yield to this command without sex becoming brutish and degraded. It is an art, not a science. He says that sex in marriage is mutual submission when the Bible speaks of the authority the husband has over his wife's body and the authority the wife has over her husband's body, is 1 Corinthians 7. And so he says that sex that is not mutual is not sex as God designed and God commands it to be. He says that means an awful lot of sex down through history has not risen to the level of true intimacy and love, and therefore violated God's design sexually. Now, this is because sex, he's saying down through history, was not sanctified, purified, and made holy by romantic love. According to Pastor Tim, a married couple that doesn't feel romantic love or sexual attraction for each other is violating God's sexual design, even if they have sex with the goal of conceiving a child. Likewise, if a couple doesn't feel mutual romantic love but has sex to be faithful to the Apostle Paul's instruction in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, then they are sinning. You'll remember 1 Corinthians chapter 7 explicitly says that husbands and wives are not to deny, or even the term defraud is used there. They are not to deny or defraud the other of sex. The Apostle Paul describes sex not as romantic, but simply in terms of being physical. Verse 4 says, for the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his body, but the wife does. There is no talk here of romantic feelings at all, or desire or attraction, or those kinds of, maybe desire, but not attraction or romanticism. None of that is in Paul's explicit instruction about this area of marriage. And so it's good to have romantic feelings, passion, attraction in marriage. After all, husbands are encouraged in Proverbs chapter 5 to be intoxicated with desire for their wives. But this does not sanctify sex. It doesn't make sex pure and holy in the sight of God. It is marriage that sanctifies romantic love and sex. Marriage itself is what does that. But in our modern rebellion, we've twisted this around and asserted that romantic love sanctifies marriage and sex. Romantic love is a thing that actually makes marriage legitimate and makes sex legitimate. So Pastor Tim has much company in his assertion that romantic love sanctifies sex. This is an overwhelming consensus in the secular world and also, sadly, in the church. And so this is bad stuff. We got to get this turned around. I know we've been blinded by chivalry here. We've been blinded by it, but we got to get it turned around. This is not. It's clearly in violation of 1 Corinthians chapter 7. I've heard teachers, mostly female, but And male too. I shouldn't admit. But they just do backflips and cartwheels in 1 Corinthians 7, trying to make that say something that it doesn't say. So we gotta get rid of it. All that being said, even still, Christ is winning. He is building his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Until next time, this is the Postmillennial Man.